everything is mid. Greetings, my savvy viewers. I just wanted to take a moment to discuss something that is not mid, and that's the original 1982 Poltergeist. I haven't seen the movie for over 25 years, at least.
You're old.
And I have to say, it's a well-aged classic that is still both scary and strangely comforting for those of us who saw it back when it was originally released. It seemed scarier at the time, but now it's still just as fun, and even more so because it's just this over-the-top ghost story. And once it gets going, it just takes off. It's a blast. I don't want to spoil the film in the event that you're watching this and you haven't actually seen the film, or you haven't seen it in a long time, as was my case. But I do want to break it down a little bit, talk about the tone and the two major creative forces that were behind this film. The film's engaging storytelling roots the supernatural chaos in a very normal suburban family life, and then it just takes off to a crazy and humorous end. Final gag, well earned, very funny. But whose film was it? Was this the legendary Steven Spielberg's film? Executive producer and writer, or one of the writers? Or was this the undeniable Tobe Hooper, known for his gritty horror classic, the Texas Chain Saw Massacre? It's an effective blend of styles, but I think we savvy viewers have a good idea as to whose influence is going to come out on top. But let's take a look.
They're here.
It's a question that keeps fans speculating, especially with Spielberg's heavy involvement in the rewrites and the creative direction. So, do we savvy viewers lean towards Spielberg's otherworldly charm, or Hooper's unsettling horror chops? Before diving into all of that, let's take a second to appreciate Poltergeist's most iconic element, the humble TV screen. Long before streaming became the norm, I know this is crazy to imagine, but television signals didn't run 24/7. The broadcast day actually ended, so the TV networks would sign off at night, often ending broadcasts with a patriotic message, the national anthem, or something more mundane like a schedule reminder for the next day. Afterward, the screen would either go dark, display a test pattern, or hauntingly transition into static. That snowy flickering pattern accompanied by an unsettling hiss, echoing the eerie silence of a temporarily disconnected world. In Poltergeist, the family's television doesn't just display the static. That static becomes an eerie portal into another dimension. For audiences in 1982, that crackling static on the screen felt unsettling, like a digital limbo. This transformation of empty airwaves into a threshold between our world and the unknown plays into the film's broader theme of discovering that which lies just outside of our grasp. So here you had something that was very everyday, ordinary. Everyone was used to the idea of static on the television. This pretty much disappeared once cable came out and we had access to tons of channels. But until then, it was kind of like you had the major three. There might be a couple of local channels. There was a PBS station. I mean, there wasn't really a lot going on. So television's going to static at the end of the day, or just being able to turn the channel to a static station was fairly common. And so to turn that into something unsettling was part of the genius of the film. The movie's implication? Well, perhaps if there's something strange happening in this static, it could be happening in your television too. Quick side note, this concept of taking a very ordinary thing and transforming it into a gateway to the fantastic was nailed by Doctor Who in its golden era with Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat, back when they seemingly prioritized quality storytelling over clumsy social messaging. They were masters of turning the everyday ordinary into otherworldly doorways that felt hyper-real. And just as Doctor Who twisted ordinary objects into portals of wonder, Poltergeist masterfully crafts a ghost story that does the same thing. And blending the ordinary and extraordinary, that's a Spielberg hallmark. which makes Poltergeist feel more like a supernatural cousin to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or even E.T., more so than it feels related to, well, anything that Hooper's done. Spielberg takes ordinary people and throws them into extraordinary situations, and Poltergeist nails that formula. The Freelings, the family in the story, start off as a regular family facing paranormal phenomena not with horror, but with curiosity. Like when Diane, the mom, is overjoyed that she can make the chair slide in the kitchen. That's pure Spielberg. It's the same energy that pulses through Close Encounters, where scientists and civilians alike stand in awe of the alien visitors, where Hooper would just plunge you into horror. Spielberg pushes you to the edge and lingers in the fascination of the unknown, nudging you to ask yourself, what if? The story is about a family facing a supernatural phenomenon. And I'd say that it's like the mother's story, but really, I mean, she's the emotional core, her relationship with the youngest daughter. But the father, even though his relationship is different, he's just as present. And for that matter, so are the siblings. Dominique Dunne, who plays the teenage girl Dana, her character is probably the least involved, but then that's kind of par for the course for teenagers. She's less engaged in the family. She's got her own stuff going on the sideline, which is kind of a subtle running gag of the story. It wasn't until this viewing that I noticed, or maybe I just didn't remember, that she clearly has a boyfriend that the parents don't know about, and they kind of hit on this throughout the story, down to her showing up with a hickey in one of the most iconic moments for her in the movie that still lives on today as one of my favorite memes. What's happening? Yeah, we've all kind of felt that way, I'm sure. I know I have. And the characters, they're not overdeveloped, but they are drawn just enough to really make these seem like real people that you could know that live in your neighborhood, or certainly like real people that would have lived in a cookie-cutter suburban neighborhood back in 1982. The movie does a great job of just setting up who these people are and what their life is like and how they function as a family. Everything very normal until it isn't. And by making the characters so real and relatable, it really makes the supernatural chaos hit home once it takes off. You care about these people and you want them to figure it out. While Spielberg's sense of wonder does dominate the film, Hooper's sense of horror does leave its mark, especially in the scenes that get downright creepy. Remember the face melting moment? That's classic Hooper, dragging us into an uncomfortable, grotesque territory. For Hooper, horror isn't about peeking behind the curtain, but making us feel like something sinister is already lurking behind us. Where Spielberg might shine a light on the unknown, Hooper digs deeper into the terrifying darkness of our everyday world, creating a sense of claustrophobic fear, as if even our safest spaces aren't safe. Hooper's horror style isn't about questioning the unknown. It's about being terrified that it's already here. Under his direction, Poltergeist transforms everyday objects like televisions and toys into conduits of horror, pushing us into darker, more confined spaces until we feel almost as trapped as the characters themselves. Hooper adds that primal layer of terror and anxiety that lives right beneath the surface, turning family anxieties into a visceral struggle to hold on to what they know, even as everything around them is being ripped from them. Spielberg gives us the awe, Hooper gives us the fear. So in the end, is Poltergeist more Spielberg or more Hooper? While Hooper definitely amps up the grotesque and the grim, the heart and soul of the movie, that's Spielberg all the way. The pacing, the awe, that emotional tug, all point back to Spielberg's vision of a haunted world where horror and curiosity collide. The movie is both terrifying and weirdly cozy. It's a roller coaster ride that is endured for a reason. Are there some strange tonal choices that don't exactly resonate with today's savvy viewer? Sure. While it's a lighthearted moment and clearly played for laughs, the contractors that are there to build the pool, they catcall and ogle the 16-year-old daughter. Seems wildly inappropriate, but it's also a character moment for her because it demonstrates that she's completely unfazed and has total autonomy and control over what she's doing. But that moment also plays a nice contrast to when she loses it later. Another moment that does not resonate with today's parenting is the son that he's going to go to grandma's house, and they've ostensibly lost their youngest daughter, and they don't drive him to grandma's house themselves. I mean, there's two parents there, and not only do they not drive him to grandma's house, they just stand on the porch as he walks down to the curb and gets into the cab out there. Like, really? You're not gonna just open the door, tuck him in there, give him a hug, let him know it's all gonna be okay, talk to the cab driver, just be kind of involved in the moment. But maybe this moment makes a little more sense when you consider the fact that this child is gonna grow up to be Gen X. If you wanna understand why we Gen Xers are the way we are, it's because we had to walk into our own cabs and drive across town with a stranger after our haunted houses were virtually eating our siblings.
That explains it.
Well, shooting that scene that way creates more emotional distance and anxiety and does make it feel like they're sort of losing their son and dog along with everything else that they're losing. So back to that question. Whose movie is it really? Well, while Hooper is the director, Spielberg's extensive involvement in the story development and being attached as a producer, he clearly has significant influence over Hooper and how the movie's going to play out. So while Hooper is the designated driver, Spielberg is clearly the one who's behind the wheel. But whatever the collaboration was, it is magic. So whether it's the supernatural scares or the family's reality and determination, Poltergeist is more than just a movie. It's a piece of haunted nostalgia that really stands the test of time. Spielberg's influence makes it a movie that takes us to the edge of what we understand. And Hooper reminds us why those edges should terrify us. And even today, after those credits roll, you might find yourself hesitating before you open that closet door. But what do you think? You tell me. Is it more Spielberg or more Hooper? Is Poltergeist your favorite movie from the 80s? Or is it your favorite scary movie out of all the scary movies? Not those scary movies. Thanks for stopping by, and remember to stay savvy.